Oh, they've already come for Washington. The woke left has come for Mount Rushmore. They are finding so many of the heroes of America's past, Teddy Roosevelt, unacceptable, not woke enough. But it was really only a matter of time, given the way that this was also affecting the culture, that they would come for even fictional characters. Or they'd come for entertainment that was not woke enough. You've had this series of people in the last couple of weeks who work on the entertainment side who voice cartoon characters of the other gender, which I would think that wouldn't that be, I mean, can't the character identify, whatever, who knows? But that's not okay. Can't voice a cartoon character of another race. That's not okay. No more Cops, the show on TV. No more live PD on TV. That's also unacceptable. So where else is the woke mob going to turn its attention and its urge for cancellation? Well, guess what? Now they're coming after your beloved superheroes. Time magazine has a piece on how we need to, here we go, we're re-examining how we portray cops on screen. Now it's time to talk about superheroes. That's right, fictional characters with powers that no human being actually possesses operating in an entirely fictionalized universe. Those characters now have to be seen through the lens of current wokeness, and we need to have a rethink about all of this now. Largely because cops, they call it cops with capes, the cops with capes phenomenon, that superheroes are people who step in as super cops when the police themselves fail. Now, for anybody who is not deeply psychologically damaged by the left's propaganda, this would be a pretty easy thing to understand. Yeah, in Gotham, for example, with Batman, the reason you need Batman is because the cops aren't able to deal with the overwhelming number of bad guys all throughout the city. Remember, the fictional city. And so Batman comes along, and then people are inspired, and the cops do better. But why is that a good story, or why is that a good guy story? Well, if you remember your Batman lore, you know that he lost his mother and father to essentially a robbery, and they a robbery. I'm trying to think. Armed robbery. Thank you. That was the term I was trying to think of. An armed robbery, and shoots his mom and dad in front of him because someone's trying to take their money and take their jewelry. And what is the point of Batman being successful in Gotham? So that doesn't happen to other people, because that's a really terrible thing. You know, people getting stopped and frisked, you can say that this is a bad thing. People being murdered outside their own home, that's a terrible thing. So if we're going to look at police actions and going to look at what creates a better, safer society, let's at least understand that not all of these different components should be weighed equally, right? Someone's right to not be offended by police presence in their neighborhood is less important than the rights of everyone else around them not to be raped, murdered, bludgeoned, etc. And so the cops with capes phenomenon of superheroes appeals to people because we all want justice and we want safety and we want the good guys to win. But here Time Magazine is saying that they think we should rethink this. They obviously go after the Punisher, who, I thought it was a pretty good Netflix series. I actually think the Daredevil series, where the Punisher makes an appearance, is a bit better. I like superhero stories. And they do point out in this analysis that there are some very prominent, successful, as a franchise, black superheroes that have been celebrated in comic books for a very long time. That movie, Black Panther, was a huge global hit. I'm somebody who's been a long time fan of the Blade series, the Blade franchise, which Wesley Snipes started back in, I think it was 1998 or so. And that was a big hit. That was really the first excellent new era superhero movie. People often forget about this. That was a Marvel comic book hero. You had these old, look, I'm just going to say it. The old Superman movies are kind of nice, But he's wearing like blue pajamas, and it's a little dated now. The effects aren't very good. Yell at me because you got a nostalgia for the old superhero movies with Superman. They're not that good. Go back and watch the old Batman movies. And that guy's basically dancing around in like a wetsuit. He didn't spend a lot of time in the gym, whatever his name is. I'm just going to say it. And he's like the superhero with the blam, pow, bam, wow, all that stuff going on the screen. But it was fun in its day. I used to watch it too. But superhero stuff has gotten a lot better in recent years. Although I do think the X-Men franchise kind of spun off the planet and stopped making sense. But that's a whole other thing. So now even superheroes, though, are a problem. And it's not that I don't think we can have this kind of cultural debate and discussion. It's the why they're problematic. It's the connection between superhero as super cops in the public mind that is bothersome to the woke left now. And then they obviously also get into the who are the bad guys. But I'm going to just say this. In superhero movies, the bad guys are overwhelmingly like white corporatist guys with weird European accents. I mean, it's really not, the bad guys. And I'm just going to say, you watch these movies, they're not singling out any ethnicity to be the bad guys in superhero movies. If they are, they're singling out like West Germans or something. I mean, this is who the bad guys are in superhero. Lex Luthor and think of in all the Batmans, the Joker. In all the Batman series, these are not people who are in any way an underrepresented minority that's being picked on or being singled out by superhero movies, but. Everything has to go through the woke scanner. And that's really what this is about. Everything has to be viewed through this prism now. No one is allowed to escape it. People will be excused, right? If you're on team left wing, if you're on team Democrat and you're important, you need to bend the knee and you'll be forgiven. But if you're a conservative, you're finished. I mean, I do find it fascinating now that we're seeing beyond any doubt that Howard Stern, Jimmy Kimmel, their blackface incidents in the 90s will result in zero repercussions and nothing. And just remember, Megyn Kelly was fired from NBC for saying that when she was younger, people dressed up in blackface or darkened their faces, is what she said, if they were doing a like fictional character as a Halloween costume, and that wasn't considered a big deal. Whereas, I mean, the things that Howard Stern and Jimmy Kimmel did, I mean, look, I'm not somebody that advocates for going back in time and finding things out of context and looking at things through our current view of society and the country and ruining people based on that. I think that's a very dangerous approach to society in general. But I also think that, okay, then no one should be put through that. It can't be sometimes that's true, sometimes it's not. But that's, as the saying goes, if Democrats didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have any standards, which I think is more true now than it has ever been. Speaking of those double standards, Devin Nunes, and I am one of the few people that says his name properly. Devin Nunes is out there, and he's making a point about the Democrats that I think we should all remember, and that is, if we're going to look at institutions that have a history, a legacy of racism, how is it that the Democrat Party escapes this? Play clip, whatever the new 9.
I find it rather ironic that the Democrats are now destroying their own history. If you look at just yesterday, Woodrow Wilson, the father of the progressive movement and the father of the really kind of the modern day Democratic Party and this socialist movement. His name is now being erased from history. Why? Because he was a racist. You have the trying to tear down and take out portraits in the U.S. Capitol. The Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, took out the portraits. What she's not saying is, I think 3 of those portraits were actually Democratic speakers. So I understand why the Democrats want to erase history, because they have a very racist history. They were the ones who opposed getting rid of slavery. They opposed the civil rights movement. So they want to label Republicans with saying they're racist, because in fact they're relying on these identity politics to win elections.
Everything Devin Nunes said there is true. The Democrat Party was the pro-slavery party. The Democrat Party was the party of Jim Crow. The Democrat Party was the segregationist party in this country. So all the worst periods of actual, true systemic racism, and that, whether we're talking about slavery all the way up to Jim Crow and then segregation, all of the true racism in this country, systemic racism in this country, is directly tied to the Democratic Party and its history. And yet it is the Republican Party that is now cast by the Democrats as constantly being racist. And there's no accounting of this in the history that is told. Kids go to school and somehow it escapes them. And this is why I insist on saying that these protesters, these lunatics running and destroying things, we don't just call them protesters or the left. They're Democrats. These are people that are going to go out and vote for Joe Biden. And they're on board for that platform. They're on board for what the Democratic Party believes in. I assure you, if there were mobs of Republicans walking around with MAGA hats destroying things, well, first of all, Democrats would be calling for dropping napalm on them from, F-16s. They would all this stuff about, police violence. That would all be no problem at all for them. But they would also be very clear to make sure that anybody paying attention would know that this was part of the Republican Party. But of course it's not. It's all part of the Democrat Party. And just another note on the cancellation stuff. We have seen now in a way that is you cannot avoid coming to the conclusion that the standards, even as they evolve on who's acceptable in history, the standards will be constantly changing. And whereas right now it is about who has a past, whether it's about the founding fathers and connections to slavery, all the way up to in the 20th century, presidents who said things or did things that are considered racially insensitive or racially or racist or racially wrong in our current era. Does anyone really think that they're not going to apply the full spectrum of wokeness to our history? Just give it time. They will decide that anyone who was for the traditional family, marriage between a man and a woman, anyone who was insufficiently favorable to trans rights, they will also be a subject of erasing. They will also be removed from the historical record and denounced. So right now that sounds like a joke, but remember, they just threw red paint on George Washington in Washington Square Park. And years ago we're saying, yeah, they're going to come after the founding fathers. Oh, no, we won't. Yeah, they did. Give it time. Once they've torn down enough statues of former presidents or people from America's past that they find to be colonialist or oppressors or whatever, then they'll come after people who are not woke enough on gender issues. Then they'll come after people who are not woke enough on trans rights. Guaranteed. It's just a question of when. And all this really does for them is give them, one, a sense of self-righteousness that is, of course, priceless to libs, but also a sense of constant control. They can change the rules and attack anyone they want. And what is your defense against this in a society that constantly caves to it? This isn't getting nearly enough attention, I think, as we're talking about what the country should do. People with coronavirus are crossing the U.S.-Mexico border for medical care. This is from CNN. Chris Van Gorder says he's seeing a telling trend in the hospitals he runs. Coronavirus patients are showing up in emergency rooms after calling 911 from the U.S.-Mexico border. They'll literally come to the border and call an ambulance. This is the president and CEO of Scripps Health in Southern California. The rise in ambulance traffic from the border, which several officials described to CNN, is a symptom of the pandemic spread in the region. There's just not a wall for viruses at the border, according to someone at the, Center for, whatever. The wall is an illusion because the two sides are really woven together. No, actually, what this, isn't it so funny? CNN immediately says, look, we have coronavirus cases coming over our border. This tells us that we shouldn't have a border. That's the exact wrong thing that this tells us, CNN. But notice the trick. They report on this and very quickly turn it into a narrative that's more to their liking. The real narrative should be, we're not taking COVID cases into this country from outside of this country. That's been true of cruise ships. That's been true of airlines. It should also be true of our southern border. We're always being told about the possibility of hospitals being overwhelmed, hospital capacity. This has got to be we take care of the people in this country first situation. All right. We're always hearing about what a great healthcare system they have in other countries. And, socialism is fantastic in these countries. Yet somehow everyone kind of knows if your life is really on the line, you want to be in America. You want to be in America. Not a surprise to any of us who try to live in the real world. But, yeah, you have people coming across the border who have COVID and are calling for ambulances. Remember, nosocomial transmission of this, nosocomial transmission is when people in the hospital give this to other people. That's still one of the main ways that this is passed among people. Intrafamilial and nosocomial are very much at the front end of how people get infected with COVID-19. So putting more and more people in the hospitals, particularly if they have really bad cases, which I'm assuming they do if they come to the border, this is now straining the public health system that we're already told is strained, that is supposed to be for Americans. It's not supposed to be foreigners show up here because they want American healthcare treatment. Now, a lot of people say, oh, that's not nice. Really? We're being told that we're going to have hospitals overwhelmed any second. Do any of the libs that would say, oh, we should just take anyone who shows up here from outside of America and take them in and give them treatment, would they feel that way if it was their mom or dad who was waiting in the ER to see if there's a hospital, an ICU bed for them while they have COVID-19? Very easy to virtue signal on this one, isn't it? But here you have a lot of people that are showing up. Now, some of them are U.S. citizens who are coming across the border. But it also goes to show that border controls. Now, so they're U.S. citizens who are across the border in Mexico are coming back and saying they have COVID. But it also goes to show you why border controls are so very, very important. So we'll have to see as these numbers continue to play out. So that's where the situation is right now, my friends. I've some of you have been pointing this out and saying this. I'm very curious to see what the number of illegal crossings are. I have not seen that quite yet. So we'll see what ends up happening here. But for now, having a secure border is clearly important, especially given that there are cases that are now coming across the border into the United States, and people are bringing in the virus. So, I don't know if we're supposed to believe that all illegal immigration has stopped in the country right now, but I'll tell you this. If I were living in northern Mexico and I had COVID-19 and I thought I could get across the U.S. border, and remember, ERs have to treat people. They cannot be turned away. I might make a run for it, too. I might decide that I was going to try to get into a U.S. hospital as well. Is there any data on this? Do we have any numbers? Nope. But I will continue to follow this. Roll call time, everyone. Don't forget to check in on bucksexton.com and also our YouTube channel. We got a new video up there that does not exist elsewhere. The Buck Brief, youtube.com/bucksexton. Please watch it, share it. Let's get that thing going. All right. Thomas, first up here. Thomas writes, wait, before we get to this, producer Mark, do you have a favorite superhero?
Ooh, that is tough. But I think I'll say Captain America.
Very solid, very safe choice. I can't hate on that one.
I do love Thor also, but Captain has to be my number one.
I do think that I used to be more of a Marvel guy, but I've become more of a DC Comics guy as I've gotten a little bit older.
See, the movies are just so... Other than, like, The Dark Knight, the Batman movies, those are amazing and probably the best superhero movies ever. But just the Superman movie, other than Wonder Woman, in the last 5 years, there has not been a good DC movie.
I can't disagree with you. The Superwoman, or Wonder Woman rather, Wonder Woman movie, right? Isn't that the one with
Wonder Woman?
The Israeli actress,
Yes.
Yeah. Gal Gadot. That was a good
Gadot.
movie. I enjoyed that. That was very good. I tried to watch the Batman Superman thing, and I actually kept getting drawn in because I was like, this is so weird and so boring. I don't understand how this is a movie that got made.
I almost walked out of the theater. It was so bad.
It's so bad that you sit there. Was it a Zack Snyder one?
I think so. And there was a whole controversy that they wouldn't let him release his cut, and now I think it's out on HBO Max. So People are excited about that, but I'm not watching it. It was so bad the first time.
Yeah, it was so bad that it was a curiosity to see to watch it, to see how much worse it could actually get. That was kind of how I felt about it. So, well, best superhero movie of all time.
Oh, The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
All right. I actually am a Batman Begins guy.
Really?
I actually like Batman Begins.
I mean, it's part of the trilogy. I guess you could call it the trilogy.
Yeah. Well, that's the best superhero trilogy of all time. I think the Batman Begins is really good. I always thought Wolverine was probably my favorite superhero character. The Wolverine movies have been a little hit and miss for me.
I really, from that, like, X-Men world, Deadpool is fantastic.
Oh, I would agree with that.
Not for the children. But
Yeah, I would agree. The first Deadpool movie was excellent. I really liked that one a lot, too. See, I like superhero movies, but I don't like all of them. All right. Now that we've heard from producer Mark on that one. Oh, also, do you think that the NHL is going to get pulled into wokeness at all? Because it seems like the NHL, not so woke.
See, that's actually been a criticism of a lot of people on the NHL and the players is the players have no personality and won't speak out on anything, which actually changed a little bit with the George Floyd thing. A lot of the players did come out and put out a statement, how terrible the George Floyd thing was. But that was like the first time maybe ever that a hockey player has stood out. So you're not going to be seeing stuff like the NBA is doing in hockey. Hockey is just play the game, you play for your team, you play to win. That's it. Hockey players are very simple creatures.
I might have to start watching hockey. I'm serious. That's just.
I've been telling you to do it for a long time now.
Well, it hasn't. In fairness, the last 6 months has not been my fault.
That's a good point.
Yeah, but I will, and I said I'll take you to a game as soon as games are allowed. I didn't realize we were working against the clock, producer Mark. I thought I'd have some time to get you to this hockey game, but turns out, as soon as I make the offer to take you and producer Brandon to a hockey game, they shut down all gatherings of like over 10 people in the world. That was not expected.
We could probably get season tickets to the Florida Panthers for less than one game at the Garden.
Well, there's that too. All right, Facebook.com/Buck Sexton if you want to get in on this action, or TeamBuck@iHeartMedia.com. And don't forget, producer Mark's favorite late night activity is to go through your voicemails. 844-900-2825, 844-900-BUCK. Please do write in. Let us know what you're thinking. Thomas, I'm sorry, did I say write in? Call in. Leave us a voicemail. Under 60 seconds, please. Under 30, even better. But please do call in 844-900-BUCK. That is our voicemail. We will play more on Thursday because we will be off Friday for the holiday. So Thursday will be voicemail day, producer Mark. Get excited.
Darn it, I was hoping you were going to forget.
Yeah, I know you were, but you've got homework now. Get excited about it. All right. Thomas, your segment today about the chant Black Lives Matter is an affirmation of the view held by those who chant it, Buck. Huh? It may have been originally said by a relative of a black citizen who died during an altercation with a policeman and then became a social justice theme. In current use during these protests, it has become a rallying cry for racists and has been adopted by many activist groups because it instantly gets media attention. The intimidation factor is openly used now to force silence by those of us who believe all lives matter. This tactic should be used by the pro-choice activists chanting newborn babies matter. Then they can confront the Planned Parenthood crusaders the same way. When questioning a member of the abortion crowd, ask them if newborn babies matter. Well, no, they would say no. Or unborn babies, they would say no. When they fail to respond, they can be accused of being part of Planned Parenthood, who slaughters babies. The social justice snowflakes will freak out. Shields high. Okay, Thomas, covered a lot of ground there. Thank you for writing in. Tommy, Buck, do you think Biden will debate Trump? My money says Biden's handlers will find a way to get him out of it. Tommy, I think that they're going to try. I think that they're going to try to get out of it. I do not think that they want Biden to debate Trump. They want this to be the machine, the DNC apparatus, the Democrat left, all the Marxist loons and all the overpaid, idiotic TV anchors who are, doing the Democrats' bidding against Trump. And Biden is just the vessel for that effort. Biden is not in any way the leader of it, and he's not supposed to be anything other than what he is, which is a placeholder. So I think that they will try to not have Biden. I think they will try to not have Biden as a debater against Trump. But if there's too much of an outcry about it, they might have Biden as a debater against Trump. So we'll see. Paul writes, hey, Buck, Paul from Canada. Fairly new listener since COVID started. Love your show. My daughter was looking over my shoulder at a video of a protest from LA, and she asked why they were outside and not social distancing, but she isn't allowed to see her friends. I tried to explain what they were protesting, and her only response was, but they won't still get sick. Apparently, my 9-year-old daughter understands the double standard, but many adults can't see it. Oh, Paul, and yeah, your daughter is certainly astute to pick up on this, but I would say that adults can see it. They just don't care. They view this as, the standard that they have set was always subject to the whims of the Democrat Party and the whims of the mob. So it's not that they're unaware of the fact that they're being frauds and hypocrites on this. It's that they don't care. And that's where the gaslighting comes in. Yeah, it's all right. Well, I guess, no big deal, whatever. That's the way that, and they enjoy it too, I think. They like to rub your face in it. Yeah, you've been stuck at home. You can't see family. You can't see friends. You can't go to your job. But we're going to make allowances for the people that want to get out there and scream about how racist and evil America is. Isn't it interesting, and there's so little time spent on this, that America hatred from Americans effectively entirely resides within the Democrat Party. If you hate America and you're an American, you're a Democrat. Because if you're a Republican and you hate America, all your Republican friends are like, what's wrong with you? This place is great. So if you're going to hate this country, you better do it, or you're going to do it in the Democrat Party, because that's where you have a home and that's where you have a lot of support for that unhinged disdain for the greatest country and the freest country in the history of the world. Also the most powerful and the wealthiest, but, Democrats don't care about that. I mean, they do. They like to be rich. They like their friends to be rich. But then they get to tell all the rest of us, no, we have not done enough to fight against oppression. And Paul from Canada, man, great to have some listeners up north. It's exciting. Team Buck International. Cynthia, I reactivated reluctantly my Facebook to follow your show. Your podcast keeps me thinking and laughing as I row and work out in the morning. You do the best Fauci imitation ever. Keep being the youthful, sane voice for conservatives. Cynthia, thank you. I appreciate it. I just want to say, if you're going to be on the rowing machine, also for the experts out there known as the erg machine, make sure that you engage your latissimus dorsi. See, I'm a medical guy, so I'm an expert. Make sure you have the latissimus dorsi muscles, and you feel a pinch between your scapular muscles of the back area when you're pulling, and you don't do what people do, the bozos on the erg machine, where they pull with their arms, not with their back. And first thing is you got to fire those quads. Also, for the experts out there, the quadricep muscles, which the data will tell you are very large group of leg muscles. Now I just gave you Fauci explaining how to erg. It's quads, back, last thing to fire are the arms, and the arms are a minor muscle in the process. It's really all quads and lats. That's how you do the rowing machine. Make sure you know. As somebody who is by no means a workout expert, and these days is really just like a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, but does know a fair bit about rowing from doing it in college, I've never seen so many people use a piece of exercise equipment wrongly as the rowing machine. And I mean people who are in really good shape too. They look like they're having a back spasm when they're doing it. They have no idea what they're doing. Watch a video of it. Have someone watch you as you do it. Because once you learn, then it's a great exercise, but it's actually pretty easy to hurt yourself on that machine if you don't know what you're doing, because you're pulling your body at weird angles. So I'm just saying. But Cynthia, I'm sure you know it very well. So thank you for writing in. And I hope Dr. Fauci was able to explain the mitigation to you. All right, next up here in roll call, John. He writes, I live in College Station, Texas. I'm 23 years old and tested positive for COVID-19 on Monday. I have mild symptoms. The most annoying of them is that I lost my sense of taste. I took a risk assessment for going out and about, enjoying my life, and doing what I can to be productive. Thanks for making a show full of content to keep me informed and occupied as I now have to go back into quarantine, keep fighting the good fight Well, John, I'm glad to hear you're doing okay, man, and you're doing the right thing. Stay home while you got this. The good news for you is it sounds like you're already your immune system is doing really well against it. You're a young guy. You're at very, very low risk for this disease, and I just mean even for serious symptoms of it. Never mind for anything more than that. And you just want to make sure you don't spread it to anybody who's at high risk. But after this is done, you'll be immune, at least for a period of time. And then you won't have to worry about it again. So that's nice, isn't it? That's a good thing. So, yeah, man. But stay safe. Be smart out there. Take care of yourself. College Station. I actually was just kind of curious. I looked at some real estate in College Station because I was wondering. Because one of you told me to move down there with someone Team Buck. And it's a lovely place. And you get a really nice house for not a whole lot of money. Unlike in New York, where they constantly take all the money in your bank account to put you in like a kennel, basically. That's, here's your kennel. That'll be $4,000 a month. You go, stinks. Andrew, hey, Buck, 99.9% of the country agrees that Black Lives Matter. Only a truly horrible racist would believe otherwise. The fact that the NBA, English Premier League, and everyone else is shoving this down our throats is only going to lead to more division. On top of all that, if all cable news took a 1-year hiatus, I can almost guarantee you that race relations in this country would heal very quickly. The media makes money and ratings on us hating each other. Races don't hate each other. But when CNN is constantly calling white people racist and how we are oppressing people, of course minority groups are going to get angry. Just my 2 cents. Andrew, yeah, I mean, cable news is a source of division and often brainwashing in this country. And I think that, look, I obviously, I admit this. I like Fox. I don't like all the shows on Fox. I don't like all the hosts on Fox. But I like Fox overall as a channel. I think it does a fair job of showing a center-right point of view in the news that it shows. I don't pretend that it's all objective. I don't think that the opinion hosts aren't sharing opinions. CNN is delusional. They've got people that are every bit as opinionated as Fox in their primetime lineup, but they say they're journalists. This is a lie. This is my problem with it. This is not all equal. This is not all, everyone's doing it. No. There's a fundamental dishonesty that exists in CNN and ABC and New York Times, Washington Post, all these places that does not exist at Fox, where they say, yeah, we've got these opinion hosts. And yeah, most of the news is coming from a center-right perspective, but that's not the same thing as other places where there's only a left-wing perspective. There is no other perspective. So then there's Brian, who writes, I just wanted to send along my compliments on your very important and impactful radio show. You've stolen me away from a competing host that is not as talented as you are. Oh, well, thank you, Brian. I appreciate that. Is he really mean and quite a bit older and has a very high nasally voice, I wonder? Especially during this ridiculous and frustrating lockdown, I find you to be a fellow traveler on a journey we don't want to be on, but have no choice. Keep up the great work. I am really enjoying the show. You have a talent for articulating what many of us are thinking, but don't have the powerful medium you do. I'm sure it's an awesome responsibility, but you are certainly living up to it. Well, Brian, thank you so much. And look, I think that anybody on the time that I'm on, because when the podcast goes up or when my radio show goes up, Rush Limbaugh's show is already done. So you've already had you've already had Rush time, okay? I think, other than once that's done, I think you should be listening to this show before any other show. I'm just going to say it. I obviously believe that. This show, you can listen to Rush. That's fine, because our podcast goes up at 3. Rush is the greatest of all time. Once Rush's show is no longer on the air, though, I think you got to listen to this show, folks. Just going to say it. And I know the other folks out there. Some of them I like. Some of them are horrible human beings. Depends. But, yeah. I think you should be listening to this one. I'm not shy about that either. Brian, oh no, he already said nice things. Robert, Buck, dear Buck. Oh, well, thank you, Robert. Not just a buck, a dear Buck. Appreciate that. A few things. The WAPO fact check story reminds me of a few years ago when Trump was fact checked about a statement that something to the effect of 40% of female illegal immigrants were raped on the journey. The objection being the number was really 45%. I don't really recall that fact check, Robert, but I'll take your word for it. Number 2, I think you should consider running for mayor of New York when de Blasio's term is up. It would be nice to have an articulate conservative get some airtime and expose the stupidity of leftist policies. You probably wouldn't win, but William F. Buckley did it. I think it would be worth doing, and you'd get some more national exposure. Yeah. Robert, thank you for that. And then number 3, Amherst is a very good school. I didn't even bother applying because I knew I wouldn't get in. Don't disparage your education. Oh, well, that's very nice of you, Robert. That's a pretty good place. Enjoy your podcast. Keep up the good work. Robert, some excellent insights coming to us here from you, so thank you for that. No, look, there were some. I made some great friends at Amherst, and there were plenty of brilliant. There were really some brilliant kids in my class. Some very, very senior people I know in the DOJ now, under the Trump administration, went to Amherst, and they're top minds. So yeah, there's a very, but we also had a fair amount of hey, I play football and I crack things on my head, and I was like, how did these guys get in? But football, so we know how that goes. That's going to be it today, team. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it as always. Until next time, shields high.